Hey YouTube. A while back I promised to put out a video concerning the Imprimatur, following my short video on papal encyclicals. Thus, now is when I will fulfill that promise. I'm specifically making this video because oftentimes anti-Catholics or just brain-dead cultural Catholics with a K, just for purposes here, will go out of their way to find any book or writing with the imprimatur and use it to justify their anti-Catholic rants. I can think of a number of videos, from the ones with James White to Muslim apologists to even debates between Catholic apologists and Iglesia de Cristo, which I have posted below because it's well worth your time, where the person will pull out a writing and show that it has an imprimatur, and from this they will note that this obviously takes right down to the very ground what Catholics believe, when it has nothing to do at all, that there's faulty reasoning behind it. And so anyways, they claim that it's gospel truth since it has an imprimatur. I hope to clear up some of the common misconceptions about the approval itself, and then address some of the nuances which are rarely addressed on the subject. So as stated before, the topic of this video is the imprimatur. But even before we can touch on this, it is important that we make mention of the nihil obstat and its place in the process of addressing approval of a certain written document. A nihil obstat is Latin for nothing hinders or nothing stands in the way of. Generally, the bishop who has been sought out for his imprimatur will forward the text to someone referred to as the censor liborum, who will then review the text before them to decide whether it contains anything damaging to the faith or morals of the church. It should be remembered here that reception of the nihil obstat does not mean that the one giving the attestation agrees with the contents of the text, only that, as stated before, there is nothing contrary to the faith and morals in the work, and therefore they may proceed in receiving certification through the application of the imprimatur at the very next level. I would like to throw in a little nuance here. If the writer seeking the imprimatur is a member of a religious institute, the text must then attempt to receive an imprimate potest from the religious superior, thereby granting him the ability to proceed on to get a bishop's imprimatur. So, with all this pregame, let's move on specifically to the imprimatur. For those that are not familiar with Catholic writings, or are just interested in a quick definition of the term, Webster's Dictionary gives us the following definition of imprimatur: a license to print or publish, especially by Roman Catholic episcopal authority. Second, an approval of a publication under circumstances of official censorship. So, in layman's terms, any book dealing with theology or morality from a Catholic perspective, or anything written by a cleric, is supposed to get this before going to print. Remember that such documents should receive such approvals, but that does not mean that they necessarily will. Sometimes Catholic theologians, in quotes of course, ignore the process, or when rejected, put out their document without the approval in the first place. So be careful with the books that you look to for theological talk. Now let's break into some of the nuances of the imprimatur. The imprimatur can only be declared by the local bishop of the person seeking the authorization. If the person seeking the approval goes elsewhere for the imprimatur, thus marketing out an ability to receive it, any declaration is considered null and void. Canon 824, Section 1 of the 1984 Canon Law Code goes into greater detail on this matter for those of you interested in the topic. When one looks at a book given the authorization, They will note that it will be followed by the following statement. The nihil obstat in Imprimatur are declarations that a book or pamphlet is free of doctrinal or moral error. No implication is contained therein that those who have granted the nihil obstat or Imprimatur agree with the contents, opinions, or statements expressed. If the local ordinary does refuse to grant the Imprimatur, they are ordered by canon law to inform the author of why the decision was made. This is done to allow the author the chance to make the changes necessary to overcome the issues that the ordinary had identified in the disallowance. An Imprimatur that is initially granted can, in fact, be withdrawn if further examination shows the work is not free from doctrinal error or moral error. This is a rare issue, and usually if this happens, the action is taken generally by the Holy See. But it can happen on the ordinary's local level. Further still, any later editions or translations require separate, new authorizations in order that the Imprimatur may still hold its standings. Now, what does this all mean then? If an Imprimatur is applied, is it an infallible declaration of the Catholic truth? Short answer is no. The longer answer, to the extent that it does in fact teach Catholic doctrine, we can rest assured that it, in that instance, is infallible. To the extent that it fails to do so, it is not. For instance, if one reads the Catechism of the Catholic Church, they will notice that it has an Imprimatur, in fact. And it is riddled with many de fide statements. So too, it makes these statements that don't hold the same authority and thus are not infallible in themselves. I want to make a quick note here. I am not saying that it teaches error. What I'm saying is that there are certain levels within the Catechism that are clearly not infallible statements, but are also to be respected as being authoritative in the general sense. So it could become necessary to remove the Imprimatur of the Catechism if one day the non-infallible teachings of the book are found to be erroneous. The Imprimatur thus can be justly removed. But I don't expect it at any time soon, and at this point I don't really see anything that was really erroneous or anything of the sort, so I make no such statement. And just for a side note, I don't consider myself an authority or a theologian, so I'm not trying to put myself in that position. So, therefore, an Imprimatur does carry clout for its perceived truth, but don't let first perception be the only thing that you rely on. Study and learn the faith, and if necessary, find faithful Catholics online or in your life that can help you determine what is Catholic truth, and also help you what things you can go to look for an authoritative interpretation. Thank you for listening to the video. I hope you have a great day. Venerable Fulton Sheen, pray for us.